Kia ora and welcome to another episode of The Leadership Lounge. I'm Katie, I'm your host, and it's a delight to be back talking to you again this week. The Leadership Lounge is a space for you as a healthcare leader to take a moment, to get a pause, to get a big breath, to get a fresh perspective on the incredible work that you're doing every day. I get to work with leaders and their teams to support them, to help them so they can feel encouraged, optimistic about the work that you are doing all the time. And this Leadership Lounge is part of that work. Now, one of the other bits of the work that I do is that I do one-to-one leadership coaching with people. And it's a real privilege, right? Because I get to work with people across the range of the healthcare system and different sectors. And it's just blown my world apart. What is the phrase I want there? It's blown it up. Seems a bit too aggressive. I don't want the aggressive sounding right now. We've got enough of that going on in the world. Okay, so it's broadened my perspective on the healthcare system by getting to work with people in a range of different areas, locations, jobs, professions, all sorts. It's absolutely great. Now, one of the great things about coaching is it's a lot like when I was a nurse. You would rock up to a shift and you'd never really know what was going to happen. And I think, I like that level of uncertainty, and I would question all of you who are working in healthcare. You must like that level of uncertainty to an extent, because healthcare is so unpredictable. But it's exactly the same in coaching. So when I am coaching somebody, I meet them where they're at. They're always in charge of the agenda, and I have no idea what they might be bringing to that session, what might need to be covered, or what issue's going to come up. And the delightful thing about coaching is that I'm not there to actually solve the problem. I'm there to help them solve the problem. Now, one of the really cool things that can come out of it is just absolutely phenomenal conversations that you have no idea where they were going. It taps into skills about listening and empathy and all of that kind of stuff. But I was in a conversation the other day, and this is the thing I wanted to share with you, because this really cool thing came out of a session. She was actually doing a bit of reflecting back on the progress she had made and how she had tackled through and worked through some really challenging aspects of this role that she was in, or that she's in. And she pinned it down to 4 steps. And she didn't really realise that at the time. I'm like going, oh my God, do you realise you've just drawn up a 4-step process for anybody who is facing challenges or a particular project or a particular issue in the healthcare sector? So here, this week, I've got for you her 4-step process that I have we co-created, I suppose, in this coaching conversation. And it was lovely. So the first thing was, you've got to understand the issue. You've got to actually know what problem you are trying to solve. It requires a bit of pause, stop, think, reflect. What are we trying to solve here? I guess in terms of the lean and the improvement kind of modalities, it's that define stage. What are we actually trying to solve? What's the actual question here, or what's the actual problem? So really understand the issue. Now, that will involve some questions, but it will be about thinking about what are we trying to achieve? What is our aim or objective or goal here? And how does that align with what we're supposed to be doing in general? Second stage, ask questions. Now, yes, the first stage, you're going to have a few questions, but I would challenge you to say is, however many questions you're asking, I would say you need to ask more. So Jim Collins has got this great quote that I like in reframing to leadership in particular around what is your question to statement ratio and can you double it? There is always, I believe, the space for more questions, because that usually means more understanding. But it's also, I think this is the opportunity to go, okay, who haven't I heard from? Who haven't I asked questions from? Because sometimes you get the answers from, the usual suspects. But actually, this is your opportunity to get some really different perspectives on things. Some who's not in the room. Who am I not using? Who is it about the community that we're trying to serve? Is it about the people that this might affect? Is it about the horizontal network that I need to understand? How does this influence other people that have touch points in relation to this project or this issue or this challenge that I'm trying to solve. So ask more questions. I guess in the ask question stage, there's also the opportunity for you to check in with yourself, whether this be about reflection, using some prompts so that you've got a really, really clear understanding about some stuff. But it's imperative that we're just asking more questions. If you want some good books on asking questions, I think Humble Inquiry is one of my top go-to sort of reference questions. And of course, in the ask question kind of category of stuff, you're also needing to make sure that you are listening to understand. You've got to go into those questions with a sense of curiosity, a mindset of wanting to learn more. So you would tap into some of the ideas from Think Again from Adam Grant. And you're asking questions, presume you might be wrong. Presume you've got the wrong end of the stick. Asking questions is this great expansive space of being able to get real clarity. And the reason for doing that, the reason for putting the effort, time, and thinking into that space is that you're going to get a better result. You're going to be heading in the right direction. You're going to be taking the right steps. You're going to get things in the right order. But overall, you're going to make this more sustainable, because there's nothing worse than trying to hair through a project or a challenge or an issue, and then you realise A, you're fixing the wrong problem, or B, you've gone off on completely the wrong tangent and upset a whole load of other people. So you get better results if you've asked more questions at the start. All right, first stage, understand the issue. Second stage, ask questions. Third step, start small. The thing is, once you've worked out what the issue is and you've got a lot of ideas about what could happen, you've just got to get going. All of this stuff requires some action. You've got to start. But sometimes, a lot of projects can be quite big or overwhelming, or you don't know where they're going, but you've just got to start. So you've got to take the first step, and it is easier to take the first step if you've broken it down into small steps. So take a small step. Just get going and do something. It might be make one phone call. I was on a coaching session yesterday. I was being coached, and there was something I had been putting off. And my coach delightfully challenged me, going, why can't you just do that today? How long is that actually going to take you to do that one thing? Do that one thing, and then you're a step closer. So I'm pretty bad at this, but I think there's a few people out there that do similar kind of things. We can kind of put off, but actually if we just did the one thing, just do that one thing. So whether it be a 5-minute task or the one thing off the list, have a look at some stuff and just go, okay, what's the first thing? Give yourself permission to stop after that one thing. But often people find that they can do a couple of things. Often we find it's similar principles around habits in any sort of form. If you're saying, okay, I'm going to do this, you ride a bike for 5 minutes, you end up riding it for 20 minutes. It's that kind of concept. Just start small. Good point in this section is to really be clear, and you'll have done this through the ask questions section, is to be really clear as to what the first stage is. Sometimes we can think it's one thing, and actually when we've really thought about it, what's the very first thing I have to do? It can be just send an email, or it can be just pick up the phone, or it can be clean my desk, whichever one it is. Start small, just get started. Fourth stage, keep going. Once we've got going, find the cadence that is right for you, the problem, the issue, the challenge, the project, whatever it is you're working on, whether it be do the one thing every day, you are still making progress. Whether it be one thing every week, one thing every month, whatever it is, just keep that going. Someone reflected to me around successful businesses, and we were talking about the challenges of being self-employed and what you do and all this kind of stuff. And someone said, well, successful people are just the ones that haven't given up. They're the ones that have kept going. And I keep kind of reminding of that, because keeping going looks different every day. And I am big on, as you'll know, making sure that we take time for rest, self-care, listening to our bodies, listening to the context and the situation we're in, and being self-compassionate when we're not doing a massive full day of work, or we're not working at what we believe we should be working at because of we're not well, or we've not slept well, or whatever that is. I'm all for that. But there's a difference between pausing and resting and stopping completely. So if you want to see something through to the end, you just have to keep going. If you want something to be successful, keep going. One of the transformative things that I did as a charge nurse was run what we called MOS meetings, which were in effect daily huddles. MOS meetings had a particular structure. It stands for Management Operating System, and it was part of a wider operating system for the whole organisation. But from a charge nurse, I ran a 15-minute meeting where we looked at some of our targets and our goals. We looked at issues and risks. We talked about projects, and we focused on some positives that were going on in the environment. Now, it took a while to get going on that. We started and we got going, but to show up every day took a lot of energy, took a lot of focus. But the cadence, it was important that it was every day. And it was exhausting. I have to confess it was exhausting, but I knew what it was going to get us. The communication, the shared understanding, the role modeling of how we want to be with each other, it was phenomenal. And it wasn't long. On reflection, it wasn't long. At the time, it felt like a long time, probably. But people were then stepping up and leading that meeting, and I didn't have to carry it all. It became part of our culture and how we did things. So I'm often thought of that as around the keep going, because I knew that the impact and the outcome it was going to have was going to be phenomenal for us as a team, which it was. So there you go. Very straightforward today with my slightly croaky voice. We have got understand the issue. Ask questions. Lots of questions from people that are not in the room. Go and be curious. Go and talk to people. Start small. Just get going. Do something. Make one step. And then rinse and repeat. Keep going. I'd love to know. It was a reflection on how she had overcome and made progress in a particularly challenging area, and how she had worked her way through some stuff when she didn't have a huge amount of help or support. So be really curious. Have a think about some of the stuff that you're facing and what you're doing, and whether elements of that or that kind of like thinking and process is maybe you're midway through now. Maybe you're at the start small and you're in the keep going. If you are, this is your cheerleading encouragement to keep going, because you'll get there. I know you will. Or maybe you're sitting at that front end and going, what am I actually trying to do here? Sometimes when you have just started a new role, you're like, what is this all about? Understand the issue. Ask questions. Then you'll get the clarity as to where to start. You've got to take those moments at the beginning of whatever it is you're starting to understand the issue, asking the questions, and then you'll be going in the right direction. All right. Lovely talking to you again this week. As usual, I've left it to the end to remind you to like, follow, make a comment, share, spread the word of this podcast and the work that I do, because it's going to take all of us to keep going in our health system right now, to be able to make the changes, to make it the place that we want to come to work, where we're going to be able to serve our communities. And you can sign up for more ideas, inspiration, cheerleading, encouragement if you sign up to the No Jedi email. The No Jedi email, by the way, has nothing to do with Star Wars. Long story as to why it's called the No Jedi email. And I have a regular interval stop and question, do I still call it the No Jedi email or not? I don't know. But anyway, it's called the No Jedi email. Send it out every week. And its aim and intention is to be a bright spot in your inbox. Encouragement, hope, ideas, optimism. Something you can pick up and run with, but not something that feels like another thing you have to do. Okay, let me wrap it on up. Delight talking to you again this week. Wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, keep going. You're doing a grand job. You are probably, and more than likely, doing better than you think you are. I'm Katie, I'm your host, and it has been a lovely little chat with you this week, and I will see you again next week in another episode of The Leadership Lounge. Take care.